From the land of frozen lakes, this is 10,000 Takes, brought to you by Minnesota Score Radio. Wally and Eric back for yet another week, yet another month, yet another year, as we have blasted off into 2025, and we continue to slice and dice the always busy, always topical, and super saturated Minnesota sports scene. Plenty to get into,
yes,
but the purple eclipsing just about everything else right now with their Monday night matchup in Inglewood against the Los Angeles Rams. Bring on the playoffs.
Well, hopefully this primetime game goes a little better than the last one. That's all I can say, because they obviously, particularly in the second half, laid an egg. Offensively, they just couldn't get into the end zone. That's a killer. And I'll say it off the top here. I thought Sam Darnold, I thought he played scared. He looked like deer in the headlights, you name it. Whatever cliche you want to use. To me, he looked nervous, scared. The overthrows proved it. He had 12 overthrows in the game, the most he's had in a game in his entire career. And, I mean, they were overthrows. They were high. Some of those balls, you're going to get his receivers killed.
Yeah.
So they need the Sam Darnold from the regular season to show
Those
up.
balls would have been tough for Kevin Garnett to
Yes,
catch.
exactly.
Yeah, Sam Darnold certainly shriveled in that Sunday night spotlight. But I also will flip it over and say that what Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator for Detroit, did, calling all those blitzes and putting pressure on Darnold all game, and then going mano-a-mano with his cornerbacks against guys like Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and T.J. Hawkinson. It worked. It was a great defensive scheme by the Lions, who had 12 guys on injured reserve. How they did that, I'll never know, but you got to give them kudos. Now, the Vikings obviously slide from a potential 1 seed to a 5 seed. They got to go out to SoCal and play the LA Rams. The record 10-7, not overwhelming, but don't be deceived. They started slow.
Right.
In fact, they started to catch fire when they beat Minnesota on the Thursday night game in October out in California. And the last loss, Sunday to Seattle, they played their twos. Jimmy Garoppolo started, not Matthew Stafford. So I think the Rams are
So that's
going
where
to
Jimmy G is, huh?
Jimmy G's in Hollywood.
Okay.
That's probably a good spot for him.
Yeah.
Get those Hollywood good looks and all that. But I think the Rams are going to give the Vikings everything they can handle. This should be probably a razor-thin game score-wise, and we know Sean McVay, their head coach. Kevin O'Connell fell off of his coaching tree. O'Connell was the OC for the Rams when they won that 2022 Super Bowl against the Cincinnati Bengals. So Vikings a slight favorite. I call it a pick'em game.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, and the Rams have home field, so you could look at it no matter how you slice it. I know this. The Rams weren't one of the teams that wanted to trade for O'Connell, I wouldn't think, right? No. Okay.
I think they're happy with Sean McVay. Who started all that
nonsense?
Yeah, it's comical to me that somebody would actually want to trade for a head coach who has yet to win a playoff game. Now, he may win his first game Monday night, but if I'm trading for any head coach in the NFL, his name is Andy Reid, and he's going to flash a bunch of bling in front of my face.
Well, I might take Dan Gamble at this point, man.
Wow.
Man, this guy, it's fourth down. He doesn't care how far it is. He's going for it.
He is incredible with how aggressive he is. I mean, if this guy was a baseball manager, every hitter with a 3-0 count would be given the green light.
Yeah.
If he was a head coach of an NBA team, all he would do is launch 3 balls up.
Jacking up the threes.
Yeah, I mean, do the Lions have a punter?
They don't need one.
They don't. They just go for it on fourth down. They can free up a roster spot.
There you go. They can carry 4 quarterbacks if they need to, or whatever the case might be.
They have a field goal kicker, but you don't see him too often either.
No, we're going for it. We're trying to get into the end zone. Yeah, it's paid off for him for the most part. Look, it cost him in the NFC Championship game last year. We know that against the 49ers. Probably cost him a trip to the Super Bowl.
I think in that case, I like his aggressiveness. He's Dan Gamble.
Should have kicked there.
But you can't be reckless. He was reckless, and aggressive's one thing, but reckless is another. When you're on the road against San Francisco and you have a chance to really put some space between you and the 49ers, he gave them life, and the 49ers came back to win. Now, you asked me something the other day on our 10K Takes radio show. If Minnesota doesn't win Monday night,
I was just going to ask you
how
this
do you
again.
grade the season?
Yep.
And, boy, I struggle to give them a B because The regular season's one thing, but this is all about winning playoff games and getting to the Super Bowl. Now, the road is a lot more difficult when you're a 5 seed.
Right.
But nonetheless, this is about winning.
Yeah. Well, and look, all the accolades that you talked about, going to Kevin O'Connell, greatest coach in Vikings history and all that, let's put the brakes on that a little bit, too. I mean, obviously, Bud is number 1. I still think Denny is number 2. He went to the playoffs 8 out of his 10 years that he coached the team, went to the NFC Championship game twice. Granted, they lost both of those, but let's see how this thing plays out. Let's win some playoff games first and eventually get, hopefully, to the Super Bowl before you start putting these labels on guys.
It's way too early to make that declaration on Kevin O'Connell. I mean, this is only his 3rd season. It's not fair to him to say that.
And he would agree with you.
Bud had longevity. Denny, as you said, had longevity. He won 101 games in 10 years with a dysfunctional ownership and a revolving door at the quarterback position. So now if KOC, gets him on a run this year and then this continues in the future, we'll have a different conversation in a few years.
Yeah. But I think the key on Monday night, and I don't think this is any big secret at all, is that Sam Darnold has got to relax and he has got to play basically like he played all season. And I don't think that that's impossible to ask, because if you recall the middle of the season when they lost to the Lions and then they lost to the Rams the following week, everybody was saying, the old Sam Darnold is back. But he corrected that and was very good the rest of the season. There were a few little hiccups here and there, but for the most part, didn't throw the interceptions that he had been throwing. He had some really bad ones, if you recall, in those games. All that went into the rearview mirror. I think it's entirely possible for that to happen again Monday night. But again, let's not forget, they lost to the Rams back in October. So they've got some things that they're going to have to correct. Kevin O'Connell said as much in his press conference this week. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and for Sam Darnold, he played at USC, which is real close to SoFi. He played high school ball in San Clemente, just down the road from Inglewood. So it's a homecoming for him.
Right.
You know how badly he wants to put on a show to win, first and foremost, but also for himself in front of his homies out there in SoCal. I think another key is, what do the Minnesota Vikings do with Matthew Stafford? If the Los Angeles Rams establish the run with their young back, Kyron Williams, Stafford will wing it, fling it, and zing it, and he could have a huge game like he did when they met in October.
And I think that Minnesota mayhem you call Brian Flores' defense, I think that's not going to rattle a Matthew Stafford like it actually, I thought it rattled Jared Goff in the first half last week against Detroit. So this is not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination. But if they win, they put themselves in a good position to, maybe make a run here.
Yeah, it's all about winning the game. If they can get out of round 1 of the playoffs, everyone will forget about the debacle in Detroit.
Yes,
right.
A debacle it was.
Stick around. We're going to talk with a former Minnesota Viking. Robert Tate will join us. We'll get Tate's takes coming up on 10K Takes, your Purple Ticket.
Seeing clearly matters. Being seen matters more. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
In Lakeville, Minnesota, dozens of meeting venues are ready to host your next corporate event, banquet, and holiday party. Lakeville has unique conference facilities, a variety of hotels, an abundance of team-building options, and dining that are sure to impress. For suggestions that suit your needs, please call the Lakeville Convention and Visitors Bureau at 952-469-2020 or go to visitlakeville.org. Lakeville, we mean business.
Welcome back, 10,000 Takes, and we are going to continue talking purple. We're going to talk with a guy who played during the Randy Moss era. That would be Robert Tate. He played defensive back. He was a cornerback for the Vikings back then. I'll start it out like this. How was it trying to guard that guy in practice on a daily basis when you're going up against 84?
Man, that's quite interesting. The thing about it is that he made me better, because going up against him every day at practice, it just made me better to go out there to play against the Isaac Bruces and the Torrey Holtz of the world with the Rams when it is the greatest show on turf. So I think from switching a wide receiver to defensive back, that's what made me better.
Robert, when you found out that Randy had cancer, underwent surgery, there's been just a flood of support for Randy Moss. What was your reaction, and have you talked to him?
No, I haven't talked to him yet, but I text him. I know he's busy with his family and all the people that he's associated with, but that's one of a good close friend of mine. And to this day, after we left the game and battling with that cancer, Randy's one of the strongest guys out there that I know that's going to persevere through this. And I just know his spirit is always good. I see him all the time on Sunday during the games.
Robert, if you will, let's fast forward to 2024 and what a defensive back is going through now, trying to guard number 18, Justin Jefferson, really the Vikings' go-to guy now the last few years. What are your thoughts on him and the difficulties that D-backs have trying to guard this guy?
Man, he's so special. I mean, the thing about Jefferson is that he's so quick. One thing about him as a cornerback, the stronger ones, almost like Robertson did for Detroit Lions, you got to play him physical. If you let him get a free release off the ball, he's going to hurt you throughout the whole game. One thing he's going to beat everyone, but you're going to make the game a lot harder if you get physical with him, because a lot of receivers these days, we don't want to be getting touched too much. But if you let us get a free release and you're special like that, the sky's the limit. It's good luck,
Do you think, Robert, the way Detroit played Minnesota, hyper-aggressive, blitzing a lot, and Amik Robertson did lock down Justin Jefferson, do you think that's the blueprint for the L.A. Rams? Will they come out and use that same formula on Monday night?
That's a good question, but my honest opinion, I don't think that's good for them because everybody's personnel is different. The Rams don't got the same personnel as the Lions have. So the Lions could bring more pressure because they have linebackers and DNs that come off the edge well. Not to say the Rams don't, but when you have a lot of depth, you could do a lot of different things. And what Detroit did, man, Glenn just brought the house, and he put so much pressure on Donald, it looked like he was seeing ghosts out there, And we had so many opportunities. Just if you go back on that game and look at it, if he hit some of them passes, that's a different game,
So how do you think, or do you think, the Vikings change anything as far as their MO going into this? They lost to the Rams, and obviously they lost this last game to the Lions. What do you think it changes for the Vikings this Monday night?
I think they just need to stay with the game plan, be more relaxed. It just seemed like Donald was rattled the whole game. He wasn't himself the way he played the whole year. They got to go back to the style of how they played the whole year and just play relaxed football and give it to their best guy, but don't force the issue because the Rams are a good team. And how the Rams beat us, I was at that game as well, is the quarterback. Oh, man, he was so smart. When you give him a pre-snap read, he's going to eat you alive all game. So if we could get to the quarterback and stop him from getting to them receivers, the sky's the limit for him.
All right, and that quarterback is the gunslinger Matthew Stafford, who did play in Detroit and then came to the L.A. Rams in that blockbuster trade for Jared Goff. He won a Super Bowl in 2022. How good in your eyes is Stafford, and how would you guard Puka Nacua, who has eclipsed Cooper Kupp as their top wideout?
Yeah, there you go. Stafford's the key. He's the engine that go. Stafford, get them all in lined up, get them all positioned. If it wasn't for him, he made so many plays in that game last time we played them that if it wasn't for him, it wouldn't be there. And with Cooper, what we got to do is just play him man up with a safety over the top. We can't let him beat us because every time he looked for a guy, he looked for him, and he caught every ball. So if we could just get to him, a little bit of pressure, show some blitz here and there, and put a safety over the top, I think we have a high chance.
Robert, I think it's fair to say that the game against the Lions was treated more or less as a playoff game. And it had all the pressure, it had everything that you want in a playoff game, two best records in the NFC. And Sam Darnold and some of the others who had not ever played in a playoff game didn't live up to what they needed to. How different is it to be in a postseason situation as opposed to the regular season?
Man, it's bigger difference because the stakes are higher. Now you play the regular season. These guys playing, okay, we getting the job done. Well, now when the playoffs come, now everything gets tight. The windows get smaller. The lanes get tinier. The football gets smaller. It's just so many different avenues it takes for professional when you're playing from regular season to playoff. That's why they say the Baltimore Ravens, the quarterback, always could play regular, all good, then playoff he can't. Nah, it just get tougher, and that's what it saw for Donald. It looked like it got tougher. He had a great year. He should be up for MVP, but that was a playoff game, and we needed it. And everything was looked like he was. It was like he was looking like a deer in headlights. Everything was tight. Everything was rushed. Everything was panicked. Just play relaxed and stay in control. And the stakes to be there, but you still got to stay relaxed and in control.
Robert, it's been a running back revival this season in the NFL, led by Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, and the Rams have their own beast in Kyren Williams. Look, this guy's well over 1,000 yards. Minnesota has to make sure they don't ground and pound, right?
Oh, we definitely, man. Man, he's running the ball hard. It remind me of Henry and them, the guys Barkley. People don't talk about him that much, but man, he's a quiet storm. He's just going about his job, doing the things that the coach asking him to do, and executing the game plan every week. You know, the Rams started out rough, and as the weeks went by, they started getting better. You know, so we have to put pressure. We got to hit him, and you got to hit him early, and you got to hit him often, and so he can make sure he can feel it.
I know you do some work for the Vikings still, Robert. What are your thoughts on Aaron Jones, what he has meant to this team, and how important it's going to be to get him up and going, speaking of running backs, against the Rams on Monday night?
It's going to be a big one, man. I thought we could have used him more with Detroit. You know, we kept passing the ball so much. I thought if they would have ran him a little bit more, the lanes was opening. All we needed was like one, just like the running back for Detroit was doing for us. Gibbs. All it takes is one lane to open up. You blitzing, and then it's like boom. So I think just stick to the game plan. He's a big factor, a part of this game plan that we need him the most. And if we could give him the ball, it'd be a big signing. We need him back, and what he had done for us all year, man, is just it speak values of with the team, and that's why we went in the games that we was winning.
Yeah. Robert, I've been to Minnesota Viking games when they play in Los Angeles against either the Rams or the Chargers, and the Purple Nation will show up. Tickets are relatively cheap on the secondary market. I would think you're going to see some purple in the building out there at SoFi, and you might hear a Skol chant.
I believe so. I mean, I'm one of the ones. I just bought my ticket this morning. I'm like, I'll be at the game. I'm in Arizona right now, and then I just bought my ticket to go out there now, man. I think we paid only $100. $100 for a ticket, and a plane ticket was only $60. Who heard that? I went to the Pittsburgh Steelers game against the Ravens, and that was $700. This is a playoff game. How are the tickets that much cheaper in a playoff game than the regular season game? You know, it's unheard of. So we got a bunch of us, like 8 of us, going down from Arizona for sure. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be a lot more.
All right, what do you look for in the game on Monday night?
Man, what I'm looking for is put pressure on Stafford. They have to put pressure on Stafford. Stick to the game plan, what we did all year long. Don't try to change or be something that you're not, you know. Don't try to treat another old dog new tricks. We got you here. Stick with got you here and rock out with it. Whether you don't make the plays or not, it's going to come. But just stick to the game plan.
All right. Hey, Robert, enjoy the pool out there in Tempe where you're located.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Yeah, it's 75 degrees out here.
Oh,
yeah,
boy.
Well,
we don't want to hear that.
Yeah. Rub salt in the wound.
All right, Robert, appreciate it. Take care.
All right, thank you, guys. Yeah,
All
thank
right.
you.
He is Robert Tate, the former Minnesota Vikings D-back, joining us here on 10,000 Takes. Eric and I will be back with more right after this timeout. Stay with us.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Wally and Eric from 10,000 Takes here in the land of lakes. And if you want sports of all sorts, check us out. We cover all the bases, all the teams in the great state of Minnesota.
Vikings, Twins, Wild, Gophers, Timberwolves, Loons, you name it, we do it. Late night Saturday night on Fox 9 Plus and on the Fox local app.
In Lakeville, Minnesota, dozens of meeting venues are ready to host your next corporate event, banquet, and holiday party. Lakeville has unique conference facilities, a variety of hotels, an abundance of team-building options, and dining that are sure to impress. For suggestions that suit your needs, please call the Lakeville Convention and Visitors Bureau at 952-469-2020 or go to visitlakeville.org. Lakeville, we mean business.
As we continue along, some quick hits. Let's start with Gopher men's basketball. And you asked me before the broadcast, you said, I wonder how many people really even are caring about the Gopher men's hoops team. Well, I got the answer to that for you. Not a lot. I saw that game against Ohio State where they blew it at the end of the game and ended up losing in double overtime. They showed a wide shot of Williams Arena. Oh, my goodness. There was nobody there. I mean, it's sad.
That's unfortunate. So what you don't have anymore, you don't have anger, you have apathy.
Oh.
And that's worse than anger because the fan base is checked out. Now, on the flip side, the Gopher women are playing extremely well with Don Pleason-White in year number 2. They have this freshman, Tori McKinney, out of Minnetonka. So maybe there's hope on the women's side of the basketball equation in Dinkytown.
Yeah. They're 15-1 heading into this weekend. By the way, the Gopher men heading into the weekend, this weekend, the only team that does not have a Big Ten win.
And I'll just say this.
In the Big Ten.
There may not be a team in the nation more decimated by the transfer portal than the Gophers.
Yeah.
Because last March, boy, the future was bright, and now it's gloom and doom.
Yeah, for sure. Are you predicting gloom and doom for your Timberwolves? Because, man, that's an up and down team if we've seen one. Seesaw, win 1, lose 3, win 3, lose 3. Anthony Edwards coming out and saying he's not having fun. He scored 53 in the night he said that, oh, by the way. Then he scored, 38 the following night. So, I mean, they're capable of winning basketball games, but I'm just not sure that this team is ever. People say, hey, it's early. It's not early anymore. We're almost to the midway point here. 41 games is the midway point, and they're almost there.
Yeah, and they're basically a slightly above average team at this point in time. How do you go up the elevator in the Western Conference, which is ultra competitive? You got to rip off a winning streak. There's a lot of teams ahead of them. Now, they're not that far ahead of Minnesota, but are they capable of going on a run of 10 out of 12, 15 out of 17, and elevating where they are in the West? I don't know. The Cat trade to me looks like
a disaster.
It's David Ortiz all over again, or Herschel Walker, or Randy Moss, or KG. It is. It's an unmitigated disaster. There's no way to spin it.
Yeah, you don't trade your second best player. And why do you think, Ant is complaining he's getting all these double teams now? Why do you think that might be happening? Perhaps because you traded your next best player away? I mean, it's just crazy.
It's really unprecedented to think they were knocking on the door of the NBA Finals. Yeah, Dallas put them in their place with a win in 5 games led by Kyrie and Luka. But you got the feeling in the offseason they'd come back hungrier. They might tweak it a little bit.
Of course.
And they'd try to run it back. Well, forget about that. In fact, the last time I saw Cat, the New York Times was doing a blowout feature on him.
Oh,
how
boy.
He loves New York City.
I don't want to hear that. Yeah. Okay. Well, one team that we do know has bounced back from some tough times are the Minnesota Wild. I mean, they have been resilient, if nothing else. All the injuries that have piled up. Kirill Kaprizov out on the injured list. Jared Spurgeon out. And they still managed to win hockey games. I got to give them a lot of credit. John Hines has done a great job.
They're a deep hockey team.
Yeah.
And, I think that mantra, next man up, really does apply to the Minnesota Wild. Marco Rossi was the NHL's first star of the week. He had 8 points in 3 games, so he's certainly playing very well. Philip Gustafson, all-star goalie, right? I mean, or whatever they do now for the is it the Four Nations tournament? I'm not sure. But he's playing at an all-star caliber. How about that, Philip Gustafson?
Fair enough, yeah.
I'm just going to call him an all-star.
Yeah, that's about as cockamamie as the Pro Bowl and the soon-to-be NBA all-star tournament or whatever. All right, more to come. Guess what's coming up next? Yes, takes of the day. Stay with us. Back with more after this.
Finding the ideal place to stay is important for business travelers. Lakeville, Minnesota is conveniently located off I-35, just south of the Twin Cities, with a variety of hotel choices. Lakeville offers convenient amenities such as shopping, walking trails, golf, and more. Our unique meeting spaces, historic downtown, live music, and over 60 dining options are sure to impress. Book your next stay in Lakeville and experience convenience, comfort, and quality. Find your perfect hotel at visitlakeville.org.
Wally and Eric from 10,000 Takes here in the land of lakes. And if you want sports of all sorts, check us out. We cover all the bases, all the teams in the great state of Minnesota.
Vikings, Twins, Wild, Gophers, Timberwolves, Loons, you name it, we do it. Late night Saturday night on Fox 9 Plus and on the Fox local app.
Seeing clearly matters. Being seen matters more. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
"10K Takes" on television as we wrap up the first episode of 2025. Big shout out to the viewers in the Twin Ports and the Twin Cities up and down the I-35 corridor. So are you going to start out this new year a grumpy guardian, a happy camper, or maybe you're somewhere in the middle?
Well, we'll see. So I'm sure you're well aware of this. Vikings owners, the Wilfs, went out and spent $2 million on 1,900 tickets to last Sunday night's game in Detroit against the Lions. And, of course, then they tried to turn them around and sell them to Viking season ticket holders to get more purple inside of Ford Field. Well, it worked to a certain degree, and then some of those people, those Viking season ticket holders, took the tickets and resold them for a profit. But if you're going to spend $2 million this weekend in Los Angeles at SoFi Stadium, this is the time to do it, Ziggy. Get out that checkbook. $2 million? Heck, you should be buying tickets for guys like our Robert Tate, your former Viking cornerback there. Or better yet, lay out that $2 million. I bet by the time it's time for kickoff on Monday night, you'll get a lot more than 1,900 tickets. I bet you get about 2 million tickets. So, yeah, spend your money wisely. Spend it this weekend.
All right, well, let's see what the mood meter says. He starts out 2025 as a sarcastic Sam.
Yes.
All right. Well, speaking of Vikings and Rams, they have a storied playoff history. This will be the 8th time they've met in the playoffs. And there have been some classic matchups. I've personally been to a few of them. When I was a kid, I was at the 1976 NFC Championship game at the old Met, the last time the Vikings punched a Super Bowl ticket. They knocked off the Rams in that game. Exactly a year later, I'm at the Mud Bowl at the LA Coliseum, and Chuck Foreman and the Minnesota Vikings beat the Rams 14-7. I saw a Vikings-Rams playoff game at the Metrodome in the Jerry Burns era, and then I was there in Y2K when the greatest show on turf, led by Kurt Warner and Marshall Faulk and Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt, put 49 up on Minnesota to advance their way to what would be eventually a Rams Super Bowl title. So this will be the 8th meeting. The Vikings have a 5-2 record. The question is, can they get it to 6-2?
Yeah, and if they don't, how are the Purple Nation going to react?
It's not going to be good.
No.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll catch you next week. This is 10K Takes, your sports ticket.